Yesterday, we weren't able to give you a huge update, but thankfully we were still paying attention to the same things going into today. And today, after hours, I am just warning you right now that something absolutely massive is going to most likely happen tomorrow, which means what the heck is going to happen overnight? And it actually scares me because we are seeing some of the biggest daily expected moves I think I have ever seen in my entire trading career. And that is why we need to give you a full update today. We need to get into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta, looking at AMC and GME, and then popping over to volatility and some other stuff at the end of this video. Make sure to stick around for the whole thing, because if we can find a hint, this is where we have to search through all of these stocks and see if one of them, just one of them, can give us a hint of what's to come. Let's get into it. Big reason that this freaks me out is because the first move does not have to be the right one. The first move could be a liquidity grab, and this could shift the other way. And that's because we have a massive implied volatility. For the SPY, you do have almost a 40% implied volatility. I have not seen that. I want to say ever. I wish I could remember back to the bear market times back near 2021 to 2022, that type of area. But it's very hard for me to remember, but so far this, at least since that time, is the most massive I have seen these daily expected moves. So there is a very high likelihood that if we're going to head up from here, that we actually could tag a weekly expected move, and all of that could be a trap because implied volatility is so high that if this would go up to this area and reject, we actually can see some downside from it. So let's look at this as we get those daily expected moves for you. We have 588.47 to the upside, and we do have 564.93 to the downside. I'm just going to double check those numbers because they're so big. I don't want to get them wrong. Okay, got those right. So what we need to notice here, what were we paying attention to with the SPY? Really, what were we paying attention to? Well, the fact that we said if we're going to get some kind of retest, which maybe we retest and don't hit that daily expected move, and then we actually reject off of that 584.50. Remember, I think we got to get through this zone, but this is the day where I said I think we're going to start a downturn from here, and this is looking like a major top. So we're going to have to take that back and keep it in order to remain going higher. But we're paying attention to the 2-hour. Can that cross up and can that go positive? Because this is not in positive territory. So if that rolls down at any point over the next couple of days, this might be a massive trap. So we need to pay attention to it. And we're going to be looking through a lot of these charts today, looking for a hint of what's to come. Most stuff is pointing for upside. So that's how we have to treat this. The 2-hour is curled up. It has that chance to go positive. We're seeing us close at the end of the day. We had a ton of people pile in puts last week and yesterday. So we can start to squeeze here, and volatility, we need to check on that. So why were we paying attention to the 2-hour turning up? Yes, we were talking about, hey, this would be the good trade setup, but technically the trade did set up here for the SPY. Okay, if we go into a 30-minute, what are we looking for here? Well, we're looking for forms of weakness, and we see it. We see that dramatic divergence. We see that dramatic divergence on the RSI and MACD at the same time. That confirms we kind of lull around, and then you see that start to burst higher. What did we do? We took back the 5-day moving average. This is everything you have to do in order to head higher. So something we're going to have to pay attention to is this zone. We have a massive implied volatility, so I'm kind of doubting the fact that we're going to open up at where we closed today. I'm really doubting that. I think something will happen that because implied volatility is so high that we're going to gap in some direction. And right now, these signals would suggest that this is in the upward direction. And what I'm really looking at here, I know I don't look at it very often, but the 4-hour chart. So something to pay attention to here with the 4-hour chart. If we see some kind of crazy dramatic upward move where we see this go like bam throughout the day, right? 2 really big bars, maybe we get up towards 586 by the end of the day. Watch if that starts to resist there with that retest if we see some kind of big upward move, because this can cross up for a brief moment and then cross right back down, and that is something I'd be very worried about. But the bullish take here, right? This all is pretty much bullish takes. That is what these are leaning towards at this moment. Really have to get through this zone first of all for us to get really bullish on this or anything, but we also could be retesting. But everything we're stating here is saying this could go up, because that is what the 2-hour signals are telling you right now. Even though it's in negative territory, it's still turning up, and we need to see that thing turn down. We need that to confirm in our signals. But something that I think could lead us into higher prices, right? Going to a new all-time high, seeing this maybe go up towards a weekly expected move, maybe even exceeding that. maybe even going up towards 600, is going to be this daily chart. If we're going to buy ourselves some time, this daily chart is going to curl up. It is still in positive territory. You have a 30-minute divergence, and there is one stock, actually there's a couple stocks that we can look at that is giving a hint that this is possible, and one of them is IWM, right? If IWM is going to see major positivity, is that because yields are about to dramatically come down? That's something we're going to touch on in just a little bit towards the end of this video. But I wanted to show you guys IWM real quick because IWM is going up and it's going up fast. And that thing looks like it can cross on the daily scale. Now, why were we talking about this crossing up on the daily scale today? Because you have a major little divergence down here, right? You have a major divergence. You have the divergence on the 2-hour here, and it looks very, very significant, okay? You can see on the MACD, we are pointing in the upward direction while that price action is coming down. More like this, but we also see that proven here on the RSI at the same time. So these are at the same time. That confirmed actually going on Monday, and then we got that 30-minute pullback and we curled back up. So this is saying that the daily scale can turn up from here. That is what IWM is saying. Maybe Palantir really helped this thing out with the earnings, but for the most part, this is just saying, hey, IWM really wants to head higher. So we should be aware that these things can go higher, and we should be aware that this can go outside of this and make some kind of divergence by the end of the week. It really can. This can cross up tomorrow if it's strong enough. Then you go on into Friday, then you start to see that curl down, maybe going on into next week. But we'll pay attention to this for you. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because IWM is showing major reversal signals here on the 2-hour that can turn up the daily chart. And the SPY, the main thing we're looking at here is, are we going to do the same thing for the SPY? Are we going to actually curl up on the daily scale, or are we going to reject with some kind of retest tomorrow? The Qs, yeah, the SPY has a 40% implied volatility for tomorrow, but the Qs have a 44% implied volatility tomorrow. Usually the Qs do have a higher implied volatility, but 44%, that is crazy to have for an indice. So maybe something I'll do live tomorrow is maybe after this video, I will make the daily expected moves for IWM since we did go over that a little bit. Maybe I'll log back over to my Excel spreadsheet and just make those for you guys so we can pay attention to it to see what that thing's doing. But for this video, we want to get into those daily expected moves. We see 503.54 to the upside, really, really close to our weekly expected move. And we have 480.88 to the downside. So you're looking at a pretty sizable move here, right? 2.24 about percent in one day can happen tomorrow. So we really have to pay attention. If that daily is rotating back up, we can maybe get above this high. Remember, I think that if Kamala wins, this craziness, I think we continue to head up, actually. I think we maybe get a correction, right? We do something like this. When we get above this high, I think that we could see some kind of corrective move, and we actually end up seeing the stock market go higher. So that's one thing to note there. That's just my opinion on it. But it is, if we exceed this high, I think we will go still through a correction, but I think it'll be just that. And I think actually the stock market might head higher into the end of the year. We'll still pay attention to the signals. We need to see that proven. As we look at the 2-hour, we can see that that has crossed up into not quite there, right? Not quite there. So we are ending the day right on 492.28. This is the annual expected move. So if we see reversal signals up here at all, we have to be very aware of what is going on. One of those reversal signals that I think you could pay attention to is a 4-hour. If the 4-hour sees some kind of rapid move this week, and then we give that up, this could create a little divergence before we are able to exceed that previous high in the past. So that is something I'd be paying attention to as far as it goes, because implied volatility is ticking up. Volatility technically is turning down, but implied volatility is getting massive. So I would just be on my toes for this. As far as the cues for turning up, why did this 2-hour turn up? Well, we kept talking about how this is weirdly controlled. This is very controlled. The SPY went down and made that divergence. The Qs did not. They didn't even cross over this MACD, right, on the 30 minutes. So when that sprung back up, you take back the 5, that's gonna curl up your 2-hour. So something I would really be paying attention to tomorrow is, do we continue this and do we make reversal signals by the end of the week? Or are we going to see this go in the complete opposite direction, see that 30-minute curl down, and then maybe go negative right away? That would be something very scary, but we have to really be on our toes. I think tomorrow is the most important day of the year, pretty much, because of the implied volatility, for us to say, trade like water, manage risk. If you see something that is going against your trade, it's probably a good time to react. TLT, just real quick, someone pointing out during our live video that a lot of things are starting to transition and people are starting to go to the call side with TLT, and you see how we're starting to round this out. So we'll see if the 2 hour is able to curl down. Hey, that means negativity for TLT. I just wanted to go over this real quick because I think people are going to reposition in this, and this is maybe people running into something out of fear. So we'll pay attention to it. I mean, those implied volatilities, they're scaring me, so I'm sure they're scaring a lot of other people. But we want to notice, you know, did this curl up on a daily scale? Yes, it did. And the crazy thing here is if we base out here and see a massive move, something massive, something that totally takes the market off guard, well, we can pay attention to the weekly because the weekly could curl up still into positive territory. So I would be very, very aware of TLT and how people might reposition into it. But we did have the great signals on the 2 hour that told us, hey, this has a good chance to bounce. If you wanted to see the opposite side of that, you can see this on a 4 hour showing you the same divergences. And this is something we've been pointing out for a while now. Just really when you want to pay attention is when that crosses over by negative territory. We will see if this proves to be some downside or if we get some kind of bounce or whatever is going to happen with the Fed later on this week. But maybe these bond traders are reacting in real time because TLT is technically going up a little bit more than the 10-year is coming down. Now we're going to get into Apple, and Apple is interesting. It was getting some rejection in our little zones. You know that that level is important. Can we retake that tomorrow? That's going to be a big deal because this one has not taken back the 5. It hasn't taken back our zone. It hasn't taken back that key level of 225.84, but we have curled up on a 2 hour MACD. So bad things with earnings. This is bouncing, and the likelihood that this is a lower high is very, very high, okay? Because you are so deep into negative territory that if you do get a bounce and that fades, that's going to be something to be worried about. You can get up by this center line, curl down into negative territory. This is one we have to say that because of the positioning of the MACD. We talk about this in the courses. Pay attention where that MACD is, how close it is to the center line, and it really helps people understand divergences better. If you're interested in getting those courses before this craziness ensues, I highly encourage you getting the Using Technical Indicators, the technical analysis course down in the description. It is only $100. It's 90% off in November, all the way up until the end of November, but then it is going away and it most likely won't see those prices again, maybe for a Christmas special though. Okay, so what we want to look at here is, first of all, that take. All right, if this is going to go the other direction, you're going to see the 30-minute. Look how that is just looping up, looping up, looping up towards that center line. And if that can cross down, that means bad things. Bad things can happen, and we have a massive amount of implied volatility. So if this curls over, it means watch out tomorrow, because this could get really, really freaking ugly for a lot of these stocks. If these little 30 minutes curl over, you can see a big move down, but we can still have a level head here, right? Just because implied volatility is higher doesn't mean we're not paying attention to signals. If this turns down and then we see that curl back up and we make some kind of divergence here, we can pay attention to that and see if we're going to get that upside move from Apple in a little bit. I still am slightly leaning towards upside here, though, because of how a lot of things are looking, because of IWM, because the SPY made a pretty strong base there. So we want to pay attention to that. But something key here is to look at the daily scale. If we're going to end up being bullish over time here, meaning all of these traps up here were nothing, and this doesn't mean anything anymore, well, then we're going to have to turn up that daily scale into positive territory for Apple. Tesla, ever since that big move, well, you don't necessarily want to chase big moves, right? Some people, they're good at scalping, doing those kinds of things, right? We even saw a little 15-minute divergence here that said, hey, we are going to experience a pullback in some way, or at least we had the opportunity to. That pulled back, and when it's on a 30-minute, you go, okay, that 30-minute did not cross back up. Okay, so then the 2 hour crosses, now that's going to go a little bit deeper. So all we were talking about with Tesla when we saw that, and people asked me, should I buy at these levels? I just go, well, you more so want to think of trading like, is this an opportunity? I don't want to FOMO into something. I want to find trades that are good opportunities. And so for Tesla to become a good opportunity, I said, hey, look for a 30-minute first. If that 30 minutes not able to do it, you notice the 2 hour crosses, look for the 2 hour. And the 2 hour was able to dip down right into our zone, just touching the top of it, our little buy zone we've wicked up from, we've used as support. And when we lose it, right, we have to gap below it. It's a very important level. Did we curl up on the MACD yet? No, but you do have two of the swing trade signals performing here. The RSI saying go, the price action getting above the moving average saying go. You're back above the 5-day moving average. That is very good, but we have not confirmed the lagging indicator. So if that 2 hour is going to actually go, if Tesla's going to test this high and go make a new one, well, then this 2 hour has to turn up. And this is one of the stocks why you need to watch the whole video. Tesla, I think, will give us a hint if we see upside over the next few days. I think Tesla will be the one to give us a great hint. Because if Tesla actually sees an upward move here and we go like this, I'm just going to tell you, even though I think you should join the Patreon, you should get used to looking at these weekly ranges and finding trades around them and utilizing them, learning how to do it with the course. I'm just going to tell you right now that weekly expected move is right up in these levels. This obviously isn't the exact one, but if you start to exceed this high and you make a divergence and this 2 hour goes like this and we make a big divergence here, we make that on the RSI at the same time, all of this will be Tesla saying, hey, Tesla's about to crash down, right? This will say Tesla can reverse with some bad news, right? We always say that. It has to have some bad news behind it, but in the environment we're in where weekly charts have confirmed triple divergence, you have to be aware that these type of signals can really cause some people some trouble. This is how bear markets work. You see a move, you see a second move, sometimes you see a third move, and then that's what tricks people into thinking this stock cannot break down, and then it does. That's exactly what happens in a bear market. So I think you got to keep Tesla on your radar. We will be watching this live with you tomorrow morning to see if Tesla's crossing up, see if it's getting a crazy move, and then we'll see if it sets up some kind of reversal signal outside of a weekly expected move. And on Patreon, we'll even put out a video if this happens discussing this trade. Amazon, one thing that worries me on the 2 hour chart is this flatness of the MACD. Really worrisome, but we're seeing some good price action. Is this extremely overbought? No. So the direction that your MACD is telling you for now is up. If that 2 hour crosses, that can still be a pullback, but we have a major amount of implied volatility. So I highly encourage reacting if you need to manage a trade. We teach you how to manage a trade in the course actively for a reason. One thing you need to pay attention to here for Amazon is if that 30-minute crosses down, that 2 hour has a very good shot to cross down because this is pretty much a double top. You see how steep that 30-minute divergence is. You see how steep it is here on the RSI at the same time. Now, what we need to pay attention to with Amazon is the fact that a lot of things are pointing up. This is pointing up into positive territory. Now, one thing you need to notice here, and this is more talking into the future because we're on the daily scale, but if we experience weakness for Amazon here, if we experience weakness, you will have a divergence here. Okay, you will have it. You will have that very flat, almost a little bit down. It's not necessarily overbought, but it is something to pay attention to because all of this could be some kind of trap. We've seen the dollar go up for a very long time while these stocks have still gone up for a very long time. All the way back into 2020, actually, you've seen the dollar still remain at higher levels. So this tells you that still, to this day, people are more likely going to hold into cash rather than hold these stocks at these levels. Doesn't mean we can't go higher. It just means I have to really watch out. And one last thing about Amazon, is this going to be the most clear trade setup at this point? No, I think it'll be more clear if this daily is able to fully rotate down and we don't see some kind of weird blip like the last time. Okay, Nvidia was fantastic to us at the end of October, right? Nvidia was the reason we were able to call that big downside move because it was outside of a monthly expected move. It saw the 2 hour divergence. That 2 hour never curled back up. And that meant, hey, downside, right? Because we had a 68% chance to land below these levels. So that is what we were paying attention to. That is how we called it. We paid attention to one stock and it gave us a very big hint of what was going on in the market. You even got a little 30-minute double top at these levels here to tell you that that 2 hour was going to fail this cross up. So that's very important. But right now the 2 hour has turned up. The only thing that's worrying me about Nvidia here is the fact that this is very controlled. And if I go into a 30-minute, you're just going to see, if I really go into a 30-minute, look how controlled this really is, right? I'm not the best at drawing, but you can see how controlled this is on the way up. A lot of the time, when you see a stock doing something like this, it can at least get a pullback. Okay, it can at least get a pullback. This would still be, in my mind, considered some kind of flagging just in the upward direction, because if you want to see buying, you want to see this type of behavior, really in the upward direction, and then getting those flags. But we're not necessarily seeing that. We're getting it a little too early, in my opinion. So I'd pay attention if that 30 minutes able to rotate down early on in the day. Still need to be aware if that's a pullback. But something good that Tesla did here is it's making this little shelf above that level, that breakdown level. Remember we said if Nvidia can take back these levels, this was where our box really was for resistance, for that breakdown area. You notice it held as resistance once and we flushed, and then we just whip back around and go the other direction. So you got a cross down and a cross back up, and that's sometimes an unfortunate thing. That's why I don't like to swing trade anything on the 30-minute. But we can notice now we're in an area where we might have created that shelf at a perfect level to actually head higher from here and keep doing this type of behavior, okay? So we're stair-stepping our way up. We'll see if this is able to turn back down. Something key to understand for Nvidia is, I think, the 4-hour chart. I think this is where you really can see something. Because Nvidia does have a higher implied volatility this week, we can see a pretty good move here, and we can take out this high and go make a new one. But I would really be cautious if that new high has weakness in it and we set up this type of behavior, because you could see this was a major divergence, bad things happen. If we're going to get one more trap in it and then see something bad, well, then you're going to make a triple divergence and then see that curl over really close to the center line. Everything that we talk about in the course, just on a 4-hour chart, something we don't discuss a lot because I like 2 hours, but if it shows up on a 4-hour, you know, I like the play. If it's clear on any kind of chart, I like the play, and I know how to manage my risk. I can be very safe taking these type of plays. I can be very confident taking these type of plays and remain in control. One thing that's not really seeing positivity is AMD. Now, if I go into a 30-minute here, I'm probably going to see divergences, right? I'm going to see this squeeze to the downside like behavior and see that RSI just turning straight up. Is this the most helpful thing to look at? No. Is this the easiest trade setup? No, it is not. If this goes up, it will be because of news and it will seem kind of random. But the key thing here is look how deep into negative territory. It looks like Apple. So even if this does see some kind of breakout moment, you're hoping that reacts to something like 153.24, the top of this, right where that gap resistance comes into play, and you want that to retest this and turn up into positive territory. That's going to be key here, because if you just do this and make a rapid move and then that fails, you're just going to be continuing the negative trend. So that's mainly what I would pay attention to for AMD, just so you are aware. I want everyone to be aware of this. AMD is one of our signals flashing absolutely red right now, saying, hey, the monthly scale is confirming the divergence that is holding across all of these, pretty much all stocks in the stock market, except for a few that are being, you know, probably artificially pumped up to hold the market higher. But AMD is confirming it as of last month. So this month, you can see a reaction, but be very careful. I would even say right around our level of 160.83, because all of that could be a trap, and then this ends up going the other direction later on in the month. Meta is one that I actually think has a good chance for a pretty solid bounce if we don't get bad news, right? It's like you see that big implied volatility and you go, if we get a black swan tomorrow, this thing can flush, man. So that is something interesting. But what we want to pay attention to is the fact that this is curling up, right? That has confirmed. You see a little tiny green bar there. I'm not going to zoom in on it, but you can see down here on your RSI, you do have a slight divergence saying that this will be a decent bounce. This is kind of saying, hey, this will be a decent bounce, but it will most likely fail. That is what the RSI is telling you, because it's not on the MACD at the same time. So that's telling you some kind of bounce could come. Now, were you aware that this 2-hour could cross up? Well, we got to look at the 30-minute. Did it show us weakness? We mentioned this multiple times during the live show today, that Meta actually had some pretty steep 30-minute divergence. So the 2-hour turning up was very likely. We'll see if that continues, because it is still in negative territory, but this did set something up for you. I don't think you made a sufficient handle. You got a little excited, and this could be the sufficient handle that's coming for Meta. AMC does have earnings. The good part is, at the end of the day, you curled up on the 30-minute. The bad part is that is negative, okay? And just so you are aware, you people paying attention to AMC, one, you have a big move that you have to see in order to get through it. You have a large amount of implied volatility. It makes sense because the earnings is here this week. But one thing you need to notice is, because you see that E, right? You see that E on my screen. So since you see it, every single person sees it, meaning market makers see it, meaning short sellers see it. They know that a big move is priced in. Usually when a massive move around earnings has been priced in for AMC, we see almost nothing. So something key to understand here is the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart has crossed down. It is still positive. That's going to need to really whip back around to see some positivity. You're going to need 30 minutes, 2 hours, but I think the 4-hour has the opportunity to remain positive and curl up into positive territory, because if it's not going to curl up and this continues and goes through that center line, they fight the stock with earnings, they're prepared for it because they see the E2. Watch out for the daily, and I think the trade setup is later on. I really do think the trade setup is right around the corner. I genuinely believe that. You might even get some kind of, you know, Christmas present from AMC, because this could curl down into negative territory and then create some kind of divergence, and right around Thanksgiving you might see something good from AMC if that creates a divergence. Now, should we expect that to happen? Should we guess that's going to happen? No, that confirmation is what we are looking for. We're looking for this to go to lower prices. The implied volatility for this, guys, AMC can go down past $4, right? Past this level. It can go down almost to 380 this week, and it makes sense, right? It's priced into the market. So yes, you have that upper level, 521, right? You have to burst through that to see something crazy. That is what would take them off guard. So you're hoping the news today or tomorrow night is very, very, very positive, and that causes the buying to exceed the selling and for them to allow it to hit the tape. But because the market makers know about this, you could see this actually fall down for a couple of days, and then maybe something happens next week if they're not prepared. But something to understand here is this might turn down, and something that you need to realize is that's in negative territory, so it is most likely to test the low, go make a new one if that daily curls down. So if you want to see a big move this week, you got to get 30 minutes. That 30 minute turned up, you got to get that thing positive, you got to get a 2 hour turning up. And my opinion is, I mean, we'll look at the 2 hour. I think that's actually really, really good. So my last statement with this is, our 437 is coming into play again. Can the 2 hour turn up into positive territory? That means you have a shot. And you see GME was trying to do it. It was like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make that new... So at the end of the day, the stock isn't able to, I would say, confirm this very well. It seems like we're able to take back the 5. We're able to take back all the moving averages. You have the RSI above the center line. That's all fantastic. But I wouldn't say that this at the end of the day is a good thing. So we need to really see that strength continue. And the best part about this is, if you're just holding the stock and you see this go through 24.46, you know, hey, this is a good shot that this is the moment, right? That's what happened last week. We saw a little spike. The stock gets fought or sold in some way, but we can see if that is able to cross through that level. That's exactly what you need to get through to see a new high, is get through that high there. So something about the 4 hour here is it rejected. So that's going to be something key. We'll see if that continues tomorrow, but if that 4 hour does rotate down, you could be in a pullback down in to test these lows for GameStop. So pay attention, because one thing is, Roaring Kitties emojis, they had, what was it? Was it American flag announcement, and then it had a explosion, and then another symbol that seemed like another, or it was, sorry, I'm kind of butchering this, but one thing that I would say is, if all of those emojis line up, it would perfectly line up to the AMC play. It would perfectly line up to, we're going to get an announcement, we're going to see fire. That was it. Okay, so we're going to get an announcement, we're going to see fire, then we're going to see an explosion, then we're going to see a bigger one and cheers. That's what it seems like to me, but hey, those are freaking emojis. I just like signals, so make sure the signals look good with AMC and GME. Now, one thing I would not do is fall asleep on volatility. I don't think we don't have reversal signals in here just yet, but you do have the 2 hour really close to the center line, and we're right in that area that I was talking about. Remember, if you paid attention over the weekend, I was really leaning towards at least a move from the 2 hour to go down towards 20 and then turn up into positive territory. Okay, the reason I was doing that was I just looked at this. I took a fib retracement of these moves, right? And I just go like this. Okay, how far down did this overall, I would say, big cup turn into a medium cup, and now we're getting a small handle here? Well, it went down, touched that golden pocket. So all I did from there was I said, okay, let me make another one and see if that can happen again, and where that would lie. That would lie pretty much just below where we are, right on 20. So if we see an upward move first, be aware that volatility might kick in early on in the day or after a morning trap. So something we're going to watch tomorrow with the on the live video is, do we see volatility come in early on in the day? Do we see a reversal signal here for the 30 minute that suggests that the 2 hour can really create a base here? Do we see volatility maybe pop up like this, confirm back down, and then we see that swoop back up? Because that would be a sign that we're seeing weakness in momentum, and maybe volatility gives us that hint. If we see the similar thing on the SPY, we are going to notify you. Just so you're aware, you've been behaving like a bear market for a long time here with volatility. The crash signal is still there on the daily chart, so you have to be aware of these things. Now, to the bull side, if we're going to see a major upward move, then the daily is going to cross up into, or going to cross down for volatility into negative territory. And the best part is, if this is crossing down, the SPY is crossing up at the same time, you pretty much know, hey, we're going to squeeze at least down to the 200. Okay, we could even squeeze down to 1212. Something that could end up happening is a retest of the 50, but just so you're aware, you're behaving like a bear market. You have the 50 crossing the 200. That is a major crash signal, and you behave like a bear market, meaning you're remaining up in that area, and that's the real crash signal. When you remain above the 200 for a long period of time, that usually is when you see major volatility and selling start to come into the market, or at least some kind of extended correction. We are not seeing that, so this is very fishy that we might make another move to a new all-time high with the signals how they look in the SPY right now. We could see Nvidia go to a new all-time high, and volatility is behaving like a bear market. So it's something I haven't seen, I think, ever, but I'm going to be very, very cautious with upside plays, and everything is telling me that across the board. So I think the main takeaway here is, are we going to see that upside continue, or are we going to see us just drop first thing in the morning? And something I really want to watch is if that daily is able to curl up into positive territory for the SPY and volatility confirm down at the same time. It does not mean I can't take upside plays. It just means I need to watch them closely. These look like decent opportunities. I'm not going to lie. These seem like decent bases. We'll see if we can get an upside move. We just have to be aware that weekly signals have crossed. I want to show this at the end of the video so it refreshes in your brain. Weekly signals have crossed. If we still remain with that weekly cross by the end of the week, that probably means whatever upward move you're seeing is going to fail. So that is something very key to understand. Because the weekly has crossed, this momentum is stronger. So this upside move, yeah, it could look fantastic, but it could be a massive trap. And that's why I just want to be careful. It doesn't mean I can't take upside moves. It just means I want to monitor them a little bit closer in this environment. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for everyone for tuning into the live show. Get out there, go vote. I know it's kind of late in the day, but I'm still going to say it. No matter who you're voting for, come in, talk to us about stocks. Let's talk about the market, because we're going to catch these momentum moves. And if we go into a bear market, we're going to be really successful calling that, because I love bear markets. My strategy works 10 times better. The one that we give away in the course works so much better, or at least for bigger swings. You can make more money with those bigger swings when volatility is above 20. So that course is down there in the description, 90% off until the end of November. So get it while it lasts. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. Liking, subscribing, join the Patreon. You guys are fantastic. And I look forward to streaming with you guys tomorrow. All right. Peace out. Stay safe out there.